Okay, a little update on, I want to talk a little bit about kidney function. Now, was it 2.5 years ago when I did some labs? One of the things that some of the vegan experts that, these guys are just obviously, physiology experts. They've got a YouTube channel and makes them physiology experts. And, you know, it doesn't matter that they maybe not had an MD or something like that. Now, you know, for as much of a meathead as I am, I did happen to get an MD. I did happen to graduate from medical school with honors. I did happen to have some of the highest grades in medical school in physiology. I have to enjoy physiology. But one of the things I was told by these vegans that know about my health more than I do, because they can see a set of labs and clearly know everything there is to know about my personal labs, is that I had kidney problems, that I was going into kidney failure because I was eating so much meat. Now, we know that there's no evidence out there at all. When I mean evidence, I mean actual scientific studies. I'm not talking about observational, epidemiologic data, which is not science. By the way, for anybody who is under the impression that epidemiology is actually a scientific experiment, it is not. It's an observation that is just poor science. Anybody that comes from a hard science, math, engineering, physics, anything that basically laughs at nutrition science, okay? It's not the fault of the nutritionists and the nutrition science people. They were just in a field that doesn't lend itself to a particularly rigorous scientific method. But anyway, when we do look at some of the experimental data showing what happens with regard to protein and kidney function, it doesn't seem to have a negative effect. In fact, 2018 study, Stuart Phillips and others, meta-analysis shows that there is no evidence that higher protein diets, i.e. and things like meat, hurt your kidneys. So, but there are some things that you have to understand about physiology, and this comes from actually reading beyond the headlines, understanding more nuance. So when I released my labs, my glomerular filtration rate was, I think, around 66 or something like that. Now, it's supposed to be above 60, and this is based on a serum creatinine value. Serum creatinine is basically a proxy for total body protein, kind of, sort of. If you have a lot of muscle, if you have a lot of protein in your diet, if you're exercising hard and you're breaking down a lot of muscle, that creatinine number can be elevated. Now, that number, that serum creatinine number, is used to calculate an estimated glomerular filtration rate. And that's what most people kind of use, right? Estimated. This is not a direct measurement of kidney function. This is an estimate only. And there are many ways to estimate kidney function. And there's many ways to directly measure it. But the direct measurements are more expensive, they take longer, so on and so forth. But the serum creatinine has worked its way into sort of modern laboratory analysis as kind of the prime way we tend to estimate these things. And so remember, it's just an estimate, maybe 30% slop in the system. And one of the things you'll see is as the creatinine goes up, the GFR tends to come down. And what we see often is like if you look at the lab values you get in the United States, they'll often say eGFR recommended above 60, and then they'll have one for African Americans and one for the rest of the population. And the one with the African Americans will always show a higher number. That is to say that the kidneys will look like they're performing better. The reason for that is there's an assumption that African Americans in general can carry about 13% more muscle mass than a non-African American for whatever reason. That causes the creatinine to go up, which causes the GFR normally to look like it goes down, but they take that out of the equation. They calculate that in for someone who is more muscular. Now, myself, being someone who also has a lot of muscle on them, you might say, well, that 66 is artificially low. You're eating a high protein diet, maybe even be further low. So I had labs done a couple days ago, some more kidney labs, just because I wanted to prove this point, because people keep asking about it. And so, and recently I'd lost some weight, as some people pointed out. I'm gaining it back quite quickly, as we'll see in the next couple of months. But I'd lost some weight, lost a little muscle mass, my creatinine came down, and my GFR went up. So my GFR now, instead of being 66, was something like 80. If you use the African American, I think it goes up to like 92 or something like that. So kind of still, some people say it needs to be above 90. So still maybe at that edge where you would say, but better than before. So Dr. Baker, if you use the vegan logic, you'd say, well, Dr. Baker, your kidney function is getting better. What's going on? Shouldn't all that meat be making it worse? Again, meat doesn't make your kidneys injured. There's another test out there. It's called a cystatin C. I've talked about that several times before. Cystatin C is another one of these estimated glomerular filtration rates. And this one is based on a substance called cystatin C that the body produces. It's not dependent upon muscle mass, protein intake, so on and so forth. So it gives you, for those people that are on a high protein diet or are particularly muscular or exercising really hard, this cystatin C test is another helpful, useful test to estimate glomerular filtration rate. So when I do that, it shows that my cystatin C is, boom, right in the normal range, as you can see here. We can see that when we use that to estimate my glomerular filtration rate, my glomerular filtration rate now goes up to 118. Clearly, totally fine, right? Totally fine. Now, some people say, well, you're cherry picking the estimation that you're using. Why don't we use something more formalized? So another thing a lot of nephrologists will look at is they'll look at how much albumin or microalbumin is in the blood. So if you get a normal urinalysis like this one here I had, where they shows no protein whatsoever in the urine, that's, unless you're having significant amounts of protein, you won't see any. But this can show you very, very tiny, tiny amounts. So I had that test done as well. And when I look at the microalbumin levels, and there's no real defined reference range on this, but mine was significantly below the threshold to where there's problems with protein spilling in the blood. So again, cystatin C, improvements in the creatinine-based glomerular filtration rate, and the microalbumin all show that nothing wrong with my kidneys. Okay, so the vegans that are claiming, oh, you've got kidney damage, or the people that think meat causes kidney damage. This is the thing: if your doctor sees you on a high protein diet and your GFR is a little low, and he tells you to cut the protein, ask for a cystatin C. More often than not, the doctor won't know what it is. More often than not, he will not be willing to order it. You can order it on your own. You can go find any of these online places. I use a place called Ulta, ULTA Labs. I think it was $40. So not, it's not that bad. I mean, it's pretty reasonable if you're really concerned about your kidney function. Cystatin C. The problem with it is it's a little bit more expensive than just a regular chemistry panel, which might go $20. And it takes about 3 days for the results to come in, as opposed to 24 hours for the typical chemistry panel. So anyway, kidney physiology. My kidneys are great, guys, and I'm eating a lot of protein. And I'm some days 400 grams, so 500 grams, 600 grams some days. Most days 300 grams. Anyway, you guys just remember, this stuff is at perspective base. And for you physicians out there, healthcare providers that don't know about cystatin C, go read up about that. There's tons and tons of literature about this. If you have patients that are on a high protein diet, a carnivore diet, rather than just knee-jerk reaction, tell them to cut back on meat because the GFR looks like it's low or the creatinine is a little high, go educate yourself a little bit. You didn't learn this in medical school. Doesn't mean you can just ignore this stuff. This is something that is important. All right, you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you later.